definitely a way to like get away from the world. It's real peaceful, relaxing. I suggest if you really want to have a nice, peaceful fishing trip, you just go by yourself, enjoy nature, be one with God, basically. Be one with nature. My name is Nathan Kerr, and this is my advice. First time I went bass fishing, I would say I was probably around 4 or 5 years old, and me and my dad went out to the reservoir by my house, and he was reeling in these big bass, and he was calling me a wuss and a Sally and all that because I was catching these tiny sunfish, and I don't know, it just seemed fun. The best time to catch your biggest fish is right before they lay their eggs, and that is called pre-spawn. They're insanely aggressive, they want to eat, they're hungry. It was just winter, not much to eat. They're in deeper water, they're coming up forward. It's actually pretty cool. You can see sometimes their nests in the water. Like they have like little nests made out of like pebbles, little rocks in the water, basically whatever's there. But they do, whenever they are laying their eggs, they like water that has like basically no wake at all. Whenever you catch them at the time that they're about to lay their eggs, they are always fat and hungry. They want to eat. They're supporting not only themselves, but I mean, however many eggs they have, they're eating for like 100. They are extremely aggressive, extremely hungry. Pre-spawn for largemouth bass is definitely late winter, early spring, right around April, May, whenever the water's getting to that 40, 50 degree mark and the bass are moving up. That's your best time to catch your biggest fish. Best weather, I would say a nice little like overcast, like where it's cloudy, even maybe like a little bit of a rain, just a little sprinkle, nothing too hard. Gets the water moving, it gets the bait moving, like the actual real bait in the water, it gets them moving. So you throw yours in there, yours looks just as good as a real minnow or real crawfish, and they hit it, and you got a bass. So some of the baits you definitely want to use whenever you're going pre-spawn bass fishing is right here. This is a jerk bait. All you do is you tie your line to it, obviously, cast it out there, you just take your rod and you just jerk it, and then you reel it in a little bit, jerk it, and I mean the fish see that, they see the action, they see all the colors, they'll go for it, you know what I mean? If that doesn't work, my next option is usually crankbait here. As you can hear, it has little beads in it, so whenever it's going through the water, it always sinks down to the bottom, and then it's hitting off the rocks. You always want to use this somewhere where you're not going to get stuck, because it sinks down to the bottom, and it bounces off the rocks, and it makes that little noise, and the fish hear that, the vibrations in the water, and they just go absolutely nuts. Next, we have a spinnerbait here. Whenever it's going through the water, this is flashing through the water, especially on like a sunny day, whenever the sun's hitting the water. All they see is this flash. They see it, they just go nuts, they think it's a minnow, and they nail it. They nail it like that. This here, not much of a pre-spawn, or it's called a jitterbug. It's not much of a pre-spawn bait, but I don't think you could ever go wrong with a jitterbug. The best time to use these in the evening when the sun's setting. What it does is it sits on the top of the water. It gives a lot of action, so it can still work during pre-spawn, and you just reel it in, and it bops back and forth like that, and it causes a trail of bubbles behind it. Every time I use a jitterbug, I catch a bass. Every single time. Never gone wrong with it. You just test, you keep going until you find what they're biting on. Eventually you will find something that they are biting on, and they will just go nuts for it all throughout that. That's probably what all bass are biting on throughout that creek or pond or reservoir, wherever you're fishing, lake. Because that's usually what's in the water right then and there. It's usually the bait that's going through the water. We were fishing all day. We were starving. We didn't bring any food with us. I don't even think we had water with us. And we were fishing probably from 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and it was probably reaching 7, 8 o'clock. We walked this entire reservoir. We are in thorns. We're in shorts and t-shirts. We're cutting ourselves up in these thorns. All of a sudden, it's basically pitch black at this time. He goes, I'm throwing on a jitterbug. He throws on his jitterbug. He casts out there, and all of a sudden, it kept going. All you heard like a little fish going for it, like it was hitting it, and he was like, and it wouldn't take it. It just wasn't hitting the actual lure. It wasn't getting hooked, and he was like, I don't even care about this fish. It's a small fish. I was like, you still should cast out there just to catch a fish, hell with it. And he cast out there one more time, and boom. I mean, it took that, and this thing was fat. Put in the time for sure. Put in the time, know what they're hitting, and you'll succeed. You don't need any skill to fish during pre-spawn. They are hungry, they are aggressive, they're going to be biting on something that you're throwing. But when you get later into the season, you got to know what to throw. You got to know based on the weather, based off of everything, what they want. And pre-spawn, I mean, I've taken my buddies out for the first time, and they've caught bigger fish than I ever have. You know, and they just cast out, and then they start reeling in, and they have one on. My personal best, I caught out of the Penn State Altoona pond, the big fountain that shoots out in the middle. There are catfish in there, there's carp, there's bass, and they're all big. Like, I mean, the water's no more than 4 or 5 feet deep, but those fish get big in there. It was 5 pounds. It's just about 5 pounds. Whatever you pull in, pull out, your personal best bass, your biggest bass ever, I mean, nothing matters in that moment besides weighing it and taking a picture and then throwing it back. Taking the fish home isn't really quite the point. It's just like enjoying the catch. You can never put a number on how many fish you're going to catch. It's always random. I mean, sometimes you go and you just get skunked. It happens, you know. It's not even the point of fishing. The point is just going out and walking around, being in nature, all that kind of stuff, and just having fun, basically. I mean, it doesn't get any better than fishing. People find it boring, you know. You just gotta. It's because you make it boring, you know what I mean? You gotta move around. You gotta find out what they're hitting on. Once you start catching fish, you will never think it's boring again.